This conference will now be recorded.
Now you can start.
Already you two.
You started off right. I've got an ally here. I'm gonna need you.
It's 9 o'clock. We're going to call this meeting of the Finance Committee to order. And I'm Robert Korn. I'm chairman. Edward, you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah. Edward Hildenbrand, vice chair.
Mr. Perry.
Everybody knows me.
Well, they probably know us too, but that's beside the point. So let the record reflect that roll call's been commenced. We do have a quorum. And approval of agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Do we have any negatives on the approval of the agenda? Hearing none, approval of minutes.
Mr. Chair, I have probably a silly correction, but it's a correction at that on page number 7. And I'm sorry, but the agenda came out 1. I apologize, but we were in Santa Fe. Just under public participation, Councilor Stubbs isn't on Finance Committee. I thanked her for her work on the council, and then for council, it's just minute, if they can just be fixed. And so I make a motion that we make, that we approve the committee minutes from February the 24th and from the March 3rd as well.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
sure.
I have a question on how I can approve minutes that to a meeting I was never a participant in. How does that take place?
Every 2 years this comes up.
Yeah, how does that take place? I can't approve what I didn't know.
Minutes have to be approved because it's correct me if I'm wrong, but minutes have to be approved because it is the authoritative document of.
I agree with that, but how can I approve something that I'm not aware of?
The other way would be that the office continues, not the individual. So the position that you sit in, Councilor Hildenbrand, is what continues on. So,
Okay.
So there's no foul on approving these.
Okay. Second.
Okay, so then we're going to approve the minutes as corrected.
Yes, sir. And Mr. Chairman, if I can ask one question. Juan, did we have a regular meeting in February as well?
Mr. Chair, let me look at, have to go back because we had the special meeting. We were in March. In February, I believe we did, and those minutes were approved at the last meeting.
Okay, I was just making, okay.
Just these were special meetings.
I see.
And
I understand now. Thank you. Sorry for wasting time. Go ahead.
No, that's all right. So
Put a vote on that one.
as corrected, any negatives? Thank you. Minutes are approved as corrected. And on the, I guess better clarify, we were talking about the February 24 minutes, correct? For that correction. And you also moved the 30th?
No, the corrections were on the March minutes.
March. Oh, I was on the wrong page.
Page 7.
Page 7.
Okay. Well, I did attend that one, so, okay, so we're done. Non-action items.
All right, Mr. Chair and committee members. So we'll just go through some of the standard reports that we provide to the Finance Committee. One of the principal reports that we track every month is the GRT report. For the month of March, we actually collected $3.2 million. We anticipated budgeting 2.8, so we have a positive variance of $429,000. This graph here is the GRT 3-year trend. And as you can see for fiscal year 20 and 21, currently at fiscal year 22, we are hovering above the prior 2 years of actual GRT collected. This report here shows the year-to-date collected up to March. We are at 29.7 million. We budgeted 26.4. That's what we anticipated we would be at. So we are in the positive at $3.3 million. As you can see in the graph, starting in July, although we were down a little bit, there were some tax and rev changes with the implementation of the internet tax. And as you can see in the August and moving forward, we have been hovering over last year's actual trend. But again, the trend, the line still mirrors the activity from the prior years. It's not uncommon. This is a normal trend for Roswell. But a positive note here is that we have been above $3 million since, you can look at since August. And that is the two principal reports on the GRT.
Okay, one.
Yes.
Thanks. Just for clarification, the green line as depicted there was part of COVID. COVID kicked in during that fiscal year, if my memory serves me correctly.
Budgeted.
That's the budgeted. The green line at the bottom is what's in our fiscal year 22 budget. It's the monthly breakout that we thought every month that's where we would be at.
Okay.
So
well, I'm looking at
the very top, the yellow.
Yeah.
Under fiscal year 20, as you can see, again, with regards to COVID, we anticipated that we were going to be taking a harder hit on the gross receipts tax. So the prior, when we were planning the budget, we reduced our budget quite a bit. However, I mean, to our surprise, we actually started, we received GRT at a stable level. We didn't take as hard as a hit as we thought. So from that point, even moving forward now, we still have been on a positive trend.
Okay. And then the second thing is the big, I think, potentially the big thing that's going to affect our gross receipts is internet sales. Looking forward, how much of an increase are you, percentage would be fine? We're getting another 2%, 1%. Been receiving that money, yes?
The internet sales, yes.
Okay, for how long? Started?
Well, it's the tax change in regards to the destination, where now it's being recognized at the destination point. It's going to continue on. I mean, unless they change the state law to revert it back to the way it was, but that will not happen.
In July.
And it started in July.
Mr. Chair, I believe we started getting those internet sales in September.
Okay.
So when you look at that chart, there was it not in September?
Yeah, I mean, you can see there, it starts showing, it went into effect in July.
So,
And then we're always 2 months behind on our actual.
so the challenge we have is that as of September, because the RP 500 report from the state does not break it out that way, we have to kind of track and look back at what the history is in order to go forward. We do not know what truly was just internet sales.
Right.
Okay.
You answered my question.
Okay.
They don't let us know.
Well, that's something that we probably need to know at least for a while to track that.
Yeah, I think we can do additional analysis on the RP 500 that will look at the businesses that would normally do those type of sales, and we could break them out or at least make a very educated guess on how much of that was internet.
Well, and it's going on unless the legislature changes their mind down the road. I mean, all this is subject to those fine ladies and gentlemen up there making decisions on what we're going to do and what we're not. So the gross receipts decrease that the state just enacted, I guess it just did it because the governor's using it on our ads. How much of a hit are we going to take, or are we held harmless?
I don't believe we will see any of that. The GRT that was reduced was on the state tax rate, not the city.
Okay.
Our city tax rate and what we tracked in the budget it will all stay stable based upon that.
Okay. All right. Any questions?
Nope.
Proceed.
All right. Our next report is just to give a quick snapshot of where we are with the budget timeline. So as you can see, we kind of met with the departments last week They submitted all their department requested budgets along with some capital items planned. So moving forward, this week and next, we will finalize the revenue projections and departmental positions on the personnel side. We will also be working on a draft preliminary budget, and we'll be meeting with management to kind of massage it, put it together. And then we will be scheduling meetings with the finance chair and then some of the committees as well in the coming months. The preliminary budget needs to be approved by June 1st, and then with the final budget on July 31st. So we are getting to the point that we'll be able to start scheduling some meetings 2 to 3 weeks from now.
Okay, question.
Yes, sir.
So, on your process timeline, it's got a 10 on the bottom, so yes, that's probably what we need to focus on at this point. Preliminary final budget, that's assuming DFA gets it back to us. 2 questions. You don't want to jump in? I'll let you start.
I just, when we get to April 28th, I would maybe like that to make it more of I'd like to be involved in that presentation and look at that as well. And see where we're at. I don't know whether that needs to be an actual meeting or whether we do that just individually as a workshop.
Can I make a recommendation?
Sure.
The concern with getting too many involved at one time in a room, then we have to have a public meeting.
Right.
It may be best to have separate meetings with some of us that would like to see that, to put in some information would be my suggestion.
Well, we've got a finance committee review and recommendation.
Correct.
5th. But yeah, you want to.
Yeah, I'd like to participate
get a hold
in that
of
preliminary
Mr.
review.
Fuentes.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
And that'll make the meeting on the 5th maybe a little bit reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay. Question, I guess, for you, Mr. Head. How come there's not a workshop in here for the full council?
Mr. Chair, the timeline is based upon what the council was last year. We're happy to put a workshop in there. I would actually recommend it now that we have the new individuals on the council. It's just exactly when. So if we back up the schedule, we have to have the June 1st preliminary budget into the DFA. I believe that according to Mayor Jennings, we intend to hold a meeting at the end, a special session at the end of the month of May in order to just manage the budget. So if you go backwards from that point, we can put a workshop in there at some level. It really depends on exactly how you want to be fed the information at this point. We believe that in the next week, we'll be having, we'll be able to roll together the information of the budget so that we can at least talk intelligently about it. So within about a week. So anytime after that, if you want to do a workshop as a finance committee or a workshop as the council, we're all ready for that. So
Well, the committee is going to get a shot at it on the 5th.
you will have one on the 5th. I would suggest that by the time we hit the 5th, you might want to we want to be close, right? So that we don't have to really shift that budget too hard at that point.
Well, I understand
So
that. And, but I think that, the budget does 2 things. Tells everybody how we're going to spend the money.
correct.
But it's the biggest policy statement we pass every year. So you've got May 19th, council approved preliminary budget. If we're going to have a workshop, it needs to happen before the 19th.
And
Right.
after the last finance meeting and before the 19th,
I think that's
that
appropriate.
would work for us.
I'd like to make
Chime in.
suggestion that why could it not happen before the May 5th meeting, Mr. Neeb?
We could
I
get one
think
in
sooner
there.
the better, so that
yeah.
we can get a full understanding, because we have a lot of new council members this year that
Yeah.
That'd be great.
meet. So I believe that we should do it before May 5th.
And depending on when you set that meeting is how far we get through with it, because the preliminary budget that we approve in June 1st will have everything but the real numbers of what the end of the year is. And so everything else should be plugged in there by that time. But yeah, as you can see in there, that we still have capital planning to wrap up into that well too. So, but happy to do whatever you guys need. We're ready at any point in time in those last couple of weeks of April.
Do you feel that it's, I mean,
No, I feel that we do it, the sooner the better.
I'm just suggesting that this committee review it before we have the workshop.
That would be my committee of 4 to dive into it.
Got to move that up.
And then move from there to a workshop, and then the determination would need to be made, Mr. Chairman, as to whether or not it'd be a workshop of the Finance Committee that recognizes the other counselors, or a workshop of the full council that will determine who's chairing that workshop.
In looking at the calendar, we're running out of time pretty quick as well too.
No.
I would suggest that last week of April, sometime that week, if you'll give us at least a week for the May 5th. Because whatever we come out of there with, we have to go back in and make the adjustments within the budget. So
Right.
just ask for a little bit of time to get that done.
Well, that's the third week of May is the 19th. So we could have, what's the timeline? I forget. When we have to, is it 3 days, 2 days, 48 hours?
3 days is what the notice has to be, 72 hours.
Okay. So there's nothing, of course, that wouldn't give you any time to make any changes if we had it either the 16th, 17th, or 18th for the public workshop. So you have to move it back to the week before. Looked to me like the week of 9th through the 13th, sometime in there.
Yeah, I will not be here from the,
I've got,
We'll make anything work, whatever you guys choose.
I will not be here from the 11th till the end of that week.
okay. Well, I've got something scribbled in here. I don't know what it is.
City Council meets the 12th.
Yeah, I'll miss that one.
What time do those start?
6.
12th to 6 o'clock.
1800. And we've got a meeting on the 14th. Correct, this month?
And pictures,
Huh?
and pictures.
Yes, the council meeting on the 14th to 6.
We've got it down. And I don't know when the legal committee's gonna meet.
I haven't seen that calendar.
Well, they'll get, we're playing catch up. We got this much time to get this much work done. You've heard me say that several times. I
Well,
don't know if you have.
so did we pick a date when we're going to do this workshop or budget, finance committee review?
My suggestion would just be for Chair Corn to just make a determination as to when would be a good time, and then allow staff to get with us through email, and we can make a determination.
Okay,
That'd just be my suggestion, but
that's fine.
Well, we've got May 5th. All right, we'll work on that. Thank you for loading my already full cart. One more step. Anytime that first week of May,
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I'm open.
I'm just out of town from the 11th.
we may want to move the budget committee up a couple of days, and that'd give us more room downstream.
I think just
That
work
might be
The
easiest.
one thing you have to remember, let's see here, let me look at the calendar there before I say this out loud. The only problem you run into if you move the finance committee forward at all, then anything we hear doesn't have time to get on the full council meeting for the
Right.
12th, because we could have it on the 9th, possibly, somebody, and get it in time. But anything after that, it doesn't have time to publish.
Do try to get the packets out the Friday prior to
Right.
that Thursday council meeting. So if the finance happens at the same week, The only challenge is that there will be a packet out that is not.
It's already challenging enough trying to get it together just with us having our meetings today.
It's hard to get all that sorted out. Well,
Mr. Chair, if I may suggest, I think if we can, I understand the need in the request of scheduling a budget meeting with Finance Committee. If we take this week with staff, work with management to kind of put the budget together, we will have a better feel of where we are. Then I can reach out to the counselors and you, Mr. Chair, and the counselors. And that way I can kind of feel as to what would work a good date and time to coordinate that first meeting. It just right now with a lot of the work that still needs to be done, I want to make sure that we meet those expectations and the deadline when we do set that meeting date. So this week will be a critical week for us to kind of put it all together. And then at the same time, I will be reaching out to you so we can kind of get a consensus of what would be a reasonable date and time for staff and the council to get the information at a time, if that would work for you.
I mean, I didn't put this list together, so you already had it scheduled for the 5th, which puts it tight. Maybe we need to move it back to Monday the 2nd.
Well, I
It's a
think,
bank holiday.
Mr. Chairman, I think I'd take Mr. Fuentes' suggestion, let them put this together and revise a calendar for us, and let's move forward.
And insert in there sometime before the meeting on the 19th, workshop.
Right.
Okay. All right, I'll get there. Give me a couple of days. Okay, Mr. Fuentes, sorry for that long discussion.
No worries. It's critical information that needs to be taken care of. Just for your information, the next couple of slides just talks about just a snapshot of our debt schedule as of 3/21/22. This information was requested by Councilor Oropesa at our last council meeting, which we provided and we provided to all the councilors as well. So this first slide here just shows all the governmental long-term debt and as well as the airport fund long-term debt. And as you can see there, the information not only shows the security, which is what is the funding source that is paying that debt, the original amount of the loan, and then the interest rate, what's currently outstanding for both principal and interest, your total payment, and when it matures. And as you can see on the far right, you have three loans you have that will mature in 22, which is the Geo Bond Series 2008, the fire truck, and the defibrillators, both of those for the fire department.
On that point,
Yes, sir.
the the bond, the first line, $4.1 million, that final payment's already escrowed, yes?
Yes, we have that.
Does that gross receipts fall off when the bond payment's done, or is it going to be considered as general fund money from now on?
No, this is a property tax.
It's a GO.
General obligation bond.
Oh, GO bond.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, okay. Wrong pew, same question.
So it would fall
Okay.
off. Is that correct? Yes.
So-
I'm getting nine.
And when will it, and what's the mill?
I don't have that information.
Look at that. Yeah.
Okay,
It's
so
minuscule.
the property tax owners, when they pay their property tax next year, will get a little help. Okay. All right. And the same way, second one down. That's a fire deal. We don't,
Fire truck and the defibrillators, those are being paid by the fire fund.
right. Okay, so we participate in the fire fund. That's good. Okay, and then you've got a gross receipts down there that's already fallen off. Looks like 21. Did I see that right? 23. Okay. All right. Well, let's not dwell on this because we're going to have more discussions about this another time. Go ahead.
The next,
If you all have any questions. No. Okay.
next schedule is the water, sewer, and wastewater long-term debt. You can see that we do have the highlighted items there, deal with the clean water state revolving loan fund for that dewatering project for the wastewater treatment plant. We first obtained a loan for 5.5, And the ordinance that's before you on this meeting is 3.9 to be able to fully fund the project. And again, the nice thing is that those are at 0.5% interest. And at the very bottom, you have the long-term for the landfill. Any questions on those categories?
I'm hoping we'll find some time to go through this in more detail.
Yes, sir.
At a later date.
Just for your information, for the 2022 legislative capital outlay, during the regular session, Senate Bill 212 was signed by the governor, which allocated the $5 million for the air center, the training facility for the fire department, all-inclusive park, the museum, Washington street improvements, and the general street improvements. Now, there was a House Junior bill in the regular session that was vetoed by the governor. In this special session, the bill was introduced as Senate Bill 1, which had a lot of those junior bill projects and these are the projects that were approved in that Senate Bill 1 under the special session for the police departments on vehicles, some street repairs, Roswell Zoo, $95,000 for programs, and the $50,000 for the adult center. So those are all of those appropriations grant agreements will be coming. Usually we'll get them around July, execute them and then send them back, and we won't have access to the fund probably till August, September.
And that 5 million is an extra 5 from what we got a couple of years ago.
Yes, sir. That's an additional. These 5 million will come to the city. The first 5 million went to the county as a fiscal agent.
Well, but you guys got to dictate how it's spent, so.
Yes. And what? Yes, sir.
Huh?
You said who got to dictate who's how it's spent?
City. I don't have my county cap on today.
I couldn't hear what you
I've
said.
got my city of Roswell cap, and you always ride for the brand. So, I'm going to be fighting and fuming with those guys too, unless we come to a better understanding. So, anyway.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, this is our loggers tax update. There were 3 hotels that were paying late. They're filled in Town Place Suites and La Quinta for our January report. Fairfield Inn, just to kind of give you guys a little bit of a background, Fairfield Inn and Town Place, they had been late for previous months, so September, October, November, and December. We reached out to them. They had a new property owner. They weren't sure of the process. They didn't think that they had to pay lodgers tax. They did. So we sent them a notification. We gave them a grace period. They are currently working on their payment plan. You'll notice that they did give us funds in the amount of $120,000, which was their past due amount. They also had $9,377 as part of their late fees that they have paid. They're not reflected on this report, just to let you know. The 3 hotels, Fairfield Inn, La Quinta, and Town Place, they have not remitted for January. So again, they're just trying to get caught up, but we should see that now in next month's report. So what I did, in order to give you guys a true accurate accounting of the information, there's going to be 2 reports in your packet. One of them shows when we collected the money, the full $120,000, and then posted it during that month. And then the other report shows where we took the money and we divided it by the month where they should have been posted. And that is the report that we will be using next month. But in your packet, I've provided both of them. The one with the little asterisk at the top, if you go here, this will show that we have collected the money. We're sitting at about 36% of where our lodgers tax should be. Again, that's where the money is going into the appropriate month of the tax liability, not when we receive the money. This will be the report we will be using moving forward. So we're sitting at 36.7% of occupancy nights. Our normal average is anywhere between 60 and 65%. So we're getting there. We're not quite where we need to be, but we are getting there. If you'll go to the next slide. And then this next one is the convention center fee, which is our $2.50 bed fee. This money reflects what we've collected again in the current months and put them into the appropriate months for which those late fees were paid. Next slide.
Juanita,
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Just for knowledge for everyone, the 250 has to go towards the convention center.
Right.
It's not usable for anything else. We petitioned Governor Martinez a number of years ago, and she made that change to allow us to be able to do that. At the time, Santa Fe and Albuquerque and Las Cruces could do it. You had to be a city over 75,000 to be able to utilize that. And we just said either take that fee away from them or make it equal across the board, because they were able to maintain their convention centers at a higher level than we were because of the financing. So she did correct that for us. And so that money has to be used directly. So a lot of times when people see lodger's tax and the bed fee, they try to lump it all together and can't figure out why we can't give money to this or that. We've got to take care of that obligation to the convention center.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Perry. And then the same thing with, even with lodger's tax, it has restricted uses as well. So I'll stand for any questions. In your packet, that's why you have 4 reports. Normally you will only have the 2. You'll have the convention center bed fee and then the lodger's tax 5% fee.
So explain again, the report forward, we'll put it in the month that it was collected or the month it was due?
The month that it was due. Not the month it was collected, because if we were to put the ones that when it was collected, you're going to see on this report, go to the next one, it's going to show that we're at 67% occupancy because 120,000 got deposited in that month, which then throws our actual occupancy off, because we really didn't have that many hotel rooms booked in January. It was just when the money was turned into us, if that makes sense.
It does. It's just inconsistent with how we report gross receipts. We report gross receipts when we receive them, not when we earn them.
Sure.
And so.
You're on a cash basis.
Yeah.
And on a cash basis, which is what the city functions on, it's where we get it.
So this here though is treating it as an accrual basis.
Right.
So, what are we doing? Are we doing accrual or are we doing cash?
We can do it however we want. That's why I gave you the options.
Well, I believe you can't be either or. You got to be one or the other.
Sure.
And so you can always asterisk and explain why that is out, that we should operate. If we're going to operate the city on a cash basis, we operate this on a cash basis.
I agree.
All right, so then we'll use the one that says 67%.
Yeah, well, and you just need to explain
And
in
we'll-
the footnote
we'll add
why that
asterisk.
occurred,
Sure.
so that people can understand it.
We can do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Nope.
That concludes my report.
You covered it for me.
Real quick, Mr. Chair and committee members, so this was a request just to place on the item. There's not a lot of detail on the Air Center hangar project, but one thing I know Manager Neb emailed all of the council about what the bids came in. We only received 1 bid for this project. Our engineer's estimate was at 12.3 million. It came in at 20. So staff has been working with legal and procurement office, and the bid will be rejected this week. And we have already been working with Armstrong Consultants on a revised schedule, which will be advertised this week. And it looks like there will be consideration of a special council meeting on May 26th, it opening hopefully for the award if we get a good bid number. So again, that's all just for information. Again, the bids are being rejected. We're just going to go out again.
Question on that, Mr. Fuentes, is that you said you got an original estimate of 12 million, now it's 20 million?
The bid came in at 20 million.
20 million.
Original estimate was lower 12 to 14, but it came in at 20.
How did the estimator miss it so bad?
Some of the indications that we got from the engineers and some of the bidders was because we had a short timeline, as well as some penalties assessed, that factored into it. Again, we were responding to the client's needs, and Manager Neb can add additional comments to that.
Mr. Chair, committee members, there's probably 3 things that caused that price to go up where it was at. One was the short time window of turnaround. We wanted to try to meet that so that we could get the building completed by the end of this year. So that had an impact on it. We kept it very tight at 120 days. We also provided a higher penalty if it went over in order to try to draw that attention to that. So what we saw from the one bidder that we've had is that they were anticipating that they were going to have trouble, so they put in dollars for the penalties to go over. And then, of course, the short time frame, I think, caused us to only have one bidder, at least according to at least 2 or 3 of the other potential bidders. They said it was the timeline that had a problem. So we corrected those. The other issue that we have is the COVID impacted supply chain.
Right.
And that's the other one. So we believe that our estimate of the 13 million, 14 million was going to be fairly close on, but we've seen some of the products, the plastics for piping and concrete and the rebar for the columns and everything are higher than what we can anticipate. So these numbers are changing like every 2 weeks. The engineer estimate has to be brought up to what is actually happening out there. So the plan here is that by extending out the time frame, not really locking them down with that, going back to the standard penalty, we took out the ability to have an incentive on the front side if you got done earlier. We think we're going to get a more traditional bid, and it's going to be a little bit closer to that. I know some preliminary estimates. We were at least with a contractor, if this individual would have bid on it, they would have been around the 14 million range. And so we think we're going to come a lot closer to where we were at. So,
Yeah, good.
but those were the issues.
Yeah, good. 42% increase over what you're anticipating. I know COVID's not 42%.
It is not by itself. Yeah,
No.
In order to get that timeline done, I think that caused some ripples in the system as well.
Or you worked that out with Ascent?
Yep. We're all good. Mr. Quirio had mentioned that he wants it done as soon as possible, but he says if we have to run into the next year, he said it's more important to keep the price where, one, he can afford it. So.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
So thank you, Mr. Neal.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize. I had to step out for just a moment. Are we going back out to bid? Or are we considering partnership with these?
We are going back out to bid. Yes. At this point in time, so we want to do the RFP or ITB process for this one. We're going to do it 2 times. And so we rejected that one as of this week. We are working on the new RFP. We should have it out by the end of this week. And then we're going to see exactly what happens. If it all comes in fine, then we'll come to the council and request that one to be whoever the low bidder most responsive is. If that doesn't work, then we actually have some tentative plans for how to do this differently if that happens.
Good.
Our goal is to try to get this project done.
Yep. Okay.
To my understanding, it was specified US rebar. And there's not enough rebar in the country right now to be able to get started on the.
I do not believe we said that it all had to be, US steel. So, and because it wasn't a federal project, we weren't required to do it that way. But
Still, the size of rebar they need is not available.
yeah, I think the challenge is that we've got a couple of the columns out there to hold that hanger up, even though it's a fabric hanger. They're 40 foot deep in the ground.
Yeah.
So.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Neb, when can we expect the ITB to be closed and accepted for?
What does that time frame look like?
The new schedule, open bids, we're looking at May 12th. We'll be advertising April 14th through the 5th. And then we'll have scheduled pre-bid meeting. Questions obviously to the engineer, if there's any addendums. Bid opens May 12th, and then the recommendation to the city will be May 17th. And then, of course, then we'll have to schedule a special council meeting. That way we can expedite the project.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I agree.
Yeah. And I think what we could do is we can do the budget and this project at the same time.
That would be great.
Together for one or the other.
That'd be great.
All right.
Okay. That was kind of a.
And hope the price doesn't go up.
When you opened that can, wasn't it?
Maybe it'll go down.
Yeah, I think we checked everybody's cardiac really quickly.
Yeah, the ambulance sitting out front. Proceed, please, sir.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee. Today we're asking for, we'll go to the next slide. We're asking for an overall increase in revenue of $6,715,077 and expenses $6,165,890,000 and various transfers. Next slide. So on the revenue side, we're asking for an increase of $6,256,896 in the general fund for GRT. This is projected through the end of the fiscal year. Also an additional $125,066. This is a grant reimbursement for dispatch purchase on software. In the JAG fund, we're asking for $26,434,000. This is budget authority for additional revenues that was received in this fund. In the golf fund, $191,624. This is also a projected budget through the end of the fiscal year now that the city is managing the golf course. In the roads fund, $54,875,000 increase in gas tax revenue. This is also a projection through the end of the fiscal year. And in the restricted donations fund, $60,182. This is budget authority for departmental donations that were received. Now in the general fund under expenses, $13,813. These were for the new purchase of new laptops and iPads for city council. $600, this is budget authority for the purchase of a new phone for the mayor. $41,000 increase for temporary labor for facilities maintenance. They have several vacant positions and they're trying to get caught up on some work orders. In $45,520, this is budget authority for insurance reimbursements for police. They're going to use this to purchase a new vehicle. $25,504. This is for fleet maintenance for a new position. This is the budget authority. $125,066. This is the grant reimbursement for dispatch for their software. In the JAG fund in expense, $26,802. This is budget authority to purchase a new vehicle from the excess revenues that were received. In the museum fund, $53,000 for HVAC and bench repairs. $18,000 for museum for they're having a sci-fi exhibition and also the purchase of the rocket model. In the golf fund, $409,080. This is the projected budget authority through the end of the fiscal year for expense. In the roads funds, $1,784,675. This was approved at the March council meeting for additional road repairs. There was a list provided. And the restricted donations fund, $60,182 for the departmental donations received. And the 2008 GO bond debt service, $65. This is budget authority for wire transfer fees when we make those debt service payments. And the Air Center Fund, $304,226. This is for the purchase of a Toro and a dump plow. Both of these were approved at the August council meeting. In the Water Fund, $1,508,049. This is for the Roswell Air Center water line. This was approved at the March council. $693,220. This is for ITB 22007, which was approved at the March City Council, and $1,057,088 for the 14-inch water line alignment at the Ascent hangar. This was also approved at the March Council. Okay. And in transfers, general fund out to various fund for GRT related transfers would be $1,948,492. Between general fund to the museum, $271,000. This is for additional transfers to the museum fund. Transfers out to golf, $217,456. This is the projection through the end of the fiscal year. General fund transfers out to street, $1,784,665. This is for the additional road work that was approved at the March Council. Road road fund transfers out to transit, they pay a portion of the gas tax to transit. So 292,512. This is through projected through the end of the fiscal year. And between the water fund and air center fund, 5,580. This is for a lease agreement between the two. And I stand for any questions.
That's a bunch of stuff. Question.
So being new to this process, maybe these are redundant questions, but so we're saying we're receiving 6.7 million in additional funds that we had not budgeted for. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yep. And now we've got $6 million in additional expenditures that we had not budgeted for, correct? So my question on one of the, these other items that are approved by previous council, that's fine. That's the way it goes. But when I see $409,000, I guess, for the golf fund, was that never budgeted to begin with? Or these additional expenses that the golf course has? What are those?
Mr. Chair, Counselor, golf course, keep in mind that we did not budget it because it was underneath a different management structure at the start of the year. So when that contract expired in October, then we took it back over in December. We carried the contract through. And so the golf course, it wasn't budgeted because we did not have any kind of estimate on what to budget for in it at the start of June. And then when we expired the contract and took it over, then we started absorbing those costs. And so this is actually a corrective action to establish a golf course fund based upon that full year or the rest of that half year.
So this is just the operational portion.
This is just the operational portion.
Management of the golf course.
Yeah, this covers the cost associated with the pro shop. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's why we didn't budget it.
Sure.
We held off until it became a necessity to make those adjustments.
Okay. That answers my question. Thank you.
So just so I understand the procedure, I see lots of things that the city council's already approved and is coming into us. So did the finance committee, were they aware of those before it went to the city council?
Yes, you've got
Not,
finance chair.
well, there's some things you have that went straight through to council. You got the rocket art, different things like that. But these are things that the finance committee's been aware of coming up on the board for some time.
This normal procedure?
Yes, sir. Normal procedure.
Like the emergency?
Here's what.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, we are required by state law to do this every month. So as we make transfers, as we make adjustments within the budget, we're required to do this each month of the year. And that's why it's changed from, I think, 2 years ago from where it used to be. But
it used to be that at the end of the year, you may, or mid-year and then end of the year, you make big, massive budget adjustments.
Yeah.
This is better for the constituent to understand because they're not getting this list once every year or twice a year. They're getting this list and it's a better ability to keep track and watch and see where we're really going and catch things before they get out of line.
So you'll see it occasionally when we get additional revenues in, and then when we have to adjust for the expenses. So a little bit of we're happy to cover it as much detail as possible, but there's always money moving through one direction or another.
So question then, we have $6.7 million in revenue and $6.1 million in expenditures. So are we adding 500,000 to surplus, or where's it?
The surplus?
Well, you're saying you got revenues coming in of $6.7 million.
Yes.
And you got expenditures of $6.1 million. Where's it going?
Explain the difference for that as to what happens there.
It's going to be in the cash balance.
It'll be the cash, which really is almost surplus funds.
Right.
Okay. So we have another $500,000 or $600,000
Right.
potential surplus funds. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready?
Whatever.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we send to full council at the meeting for this Thursday Is this placed on regular or is it on consent one?
We can place it on, I think with the.
What is it now? Is this on for this?
Oh, I don't know, because I know the agenda already went out.
Give me just a moment, Mr. Chairman, to check.
Yeah,
Let's get it right. That's my fault. I should have looked for this before we moved into here.
This is a big adjustment, so
I'm getting a call from City Hall.
I hope it doesn't go on the consent because there's lots.
If you feel that way, then I would just go ahead and put it on regular agenda. Make
That
a motion.
if you, if you want it on full agenda, then I'll just make a motion for that and then it'll just automatically be pulled from consent anyway.
Yes.
That's what you're wanting. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we send to full council for this Thursday meeting. The resolution here approving the budget adjustments for the fiscal year ending in June 30, 2022 as presented, including Exhibit A to the documentation for the, as a regular item.
I second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any objection? Passes 3-0.
Morning, Mr. Chair, councilors. My name's Robert Glenn. I'm your Deputy Superintendent for Water Maintenance. I'm also the surplus guy. City surplus falls under the Water Department because it falls under the city warehouse. We're the ones that kind of manage this. This is a monthly resolution that you guys will start seeing. And this is how we dispose of surplus property. It includes vehicles, equipment, and other items from various city departments. This list is longer than a normal list. Usually it's like a half a page. This is the end of the year. So we're going through and cleaning up a bunch of items after the departments have done their inventories, to try and balance out the books, make sure everything's cleaned up. If you look at the list, item Exhibit A is anything that's valued under $2,500. Exhibit B is anything over $2,501. And I do have a copy of the policy for any of the members who'd like to see that, how the process works. I stand for any questions.
Questions, Sheldon?
No questions. You understand the policy, you administer it, so there's no need for me to understand.
This is just
This housekeeping.
technicality.
Yeah.
Got to do it. It's just part of the deal. I got a question. So when these items be all put up for auction, yes?
Yes, we use publicsurplus.com.
Okay, it's internet auction.
Yes.
That's what I was,
And
that's the next question.
it has worked very well for us. So far, our revenues were up around 280-some thousand that we've made since we started doing this. So it's worked well for us.
Yeah, we started doing that at the county and it did the same thing. The recovery went way up.
It's the same one the county uses.
Yeah, okay.
It's amazing what people will bid on and what they'll pay for it. It surprises us.
Well, but you open it up to bigger audience. That's the big thing.
Mr. Chairman, historically, we have put this on consent, but from time to time, we may have council pull something off with questions, but normally this is a consent item.
This ought to be pretty cut and dry. So I just put it.
Mr.
Glad to hear you
Chairman,
agree.
and Council, just for your FYI, I do have a copy of the agenda, council agenda, and this item was placed under regular.
This is on regular.
Yes, not on consent, but
I'm going to go ahead and make a motion for consent, and then when I make the motion at full council, I'll just make a motion to put that on consent. Is that okay?
that's okay.
You're good?
And I'll be there in case there's any questions on it for the new council members. Thank you.
Is it cold outside today?
Well, I decided to dress up for you guys.
Listen, if Tom Jennings can come to a swearing in with shorts and a sports coat, you can come in. Shorts to a meeting, huh?
So I got a motion.
I make a motion that we send to full council for the consent agenda at this next city council meeting, the resolution authorizing the disposal of certain surplus personal property, including Exhibit A and Exhibit B, to be approved.
I second that motion.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Anyone opposed? Motion passes 3-0. All right. So a silly question. Who's keeping minutes, or do you go back after this and look at the recording? Is that the normal procedure?
That is correct. Yes, Mr. Chair, we do have a staff member who will review the recording and type the minutes. They're summarized, as you can see in the minutes that you were all approved.
Oh, I was just curious.
And we've got you recorded too. So.
Well, I know that every meeting I ever went to has been recorded somewhere. Well, that's not true. Back in the 80s, we didn't record nothing in the state. But that's changed. Okay, moving on.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, committee members, so this is consideration to hold a public hearing and consider adoption of ordinance 2206 to amend ordinance 1909. The city borrowed $5.5 million at 0.5% interest rate. The wastewater treatment plant dewatering facility. Bids were open on February 8th, and the bids were higher. The engineer's last estimate of $6.9 million. The low bid came in with GRT at $8.6 million. So NMED has offered the city an additional loan to fund the project at $3.9 million. NMED will provide additional loan subsidy of $285,000. The city council authorized publication of the proposed ordinance for a public hearing consideration of adoption during their March 10th meeting. And also with us today is Lorenzo, who can also add additional comments on the project if you don't have any questions. And with that, Mr. Chair, committee members, I will stand for questions. And this is a picture of the dewatering project that we're considering.
This is the same story you gave us when we were out here.
Same story.
Okay, so you have any questions? He and I have already heard it.
After I took the tour and saw what we had, I said, let's get this done.
No, I don't disagree. And what's happening out there at sanitation.
You got to go take a look.
Yeah, they're doing
Phenomenal.
a fantastic, phenomenal job out there with it. I commend you and your staff for what you all are doing. And Mike, thank you for putting that together for us. But I do have a question on this and the fact that, again, how did the engineer miss the bid? He had it at 6.9 and it comes in at 8.6. That's 23%. And that bid was done within, what, 6 months, 4 months from when you got the actual bid to his estimate. What's going on with the engineer and as far as getting these estimates close to what they actually are? Are they using bad data? Because for them to come and say we're going to 6.9 and we're going to spend more, somebody's not feeding us the right data.
Yes, sir.
Because I can't believe in that short period of time that we've had inflation of this type of materials of 23%. So please explain why that difference is taking place.
There was a severe increase in the price of materials. I can just give you kind of a quick estimate on like an 8-inch piece of joint of 8-inch C900. We purchased it a couple of years ago for $140 for a 20-foot joint. And we got an estimate a while back at $557 for that same joint of PVC pipe. That shows you how significant the increase was. You wouldn't think of it, but it's tripled.
Right.
I mean, it's not quadruple, I mean, the cost went significantly higher. So I think just in all materials and valves, anything to do with materials right now, the increase has gone.
I appreciate that and what that's happening, but the question is, why does the engineer miss it so much? That's the
In a
question.
short period of time.
Yeah.
In a very short period. I appreciate what you're having to pay and what the market is, but is the engineer tied into what the market is? So we don't get these surprises. That probably was a big surprise to you when you said it was 8 million and told it 7 million.
Counselor, I know that when we get the bid cap sheets, it's a line item. And I don't know if we had looked at line by line. I know we did with the Ascent deal as to where the big leaps and the numbers were. I know we're not ready today to have that conversation, but can we go back and look at that line item on the bids and determine exactly what, I think we can get closer to answering that question.
Yeah, but because he shouldn't be surprised when he sees it, nor should anyone on the council.
And right now, HDR is reviewing the bid tab sheets to see where the engineer estimate was off. So they are doing a review on that right now to see why there was so much of a increase, why their numbers were off.
Right.
what you're saying, because we should kind of be more aware of where we're going to come in at. So we can provide, we'll be able to provide that information at the council meeting, so.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, this stuff you bought a tube before lately at Home Depot?
$8.
Or a sheet of plywood?
Yeah.
We're doing remodeling right now at the church, and I would dare say we're over budget by about 60% right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to stop people doing expansion.
Mhm.
You know, at some point in time, this is going to be harmful.
During COVID, everybody did their remodels and stuff, and now the price hit. I was one of the lucky ones. I got in before the big escalator.
Yeah.
So we got it done.
Had a real estate agent pushing me, said, I can sell your house right now, and this is how much I can get you for. I said, yep, then I got to buy something.
Right.
Yeah. Kind of like the car business.
Yeah.
I get calls every day on mine, and I say, well, what have you got that I'd be interested in? Well, we don't have anything right now. And it just,
Yeah.
you can't get all the parts and pieces. Okay, what's your all's desire?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we send to full council recommendation to advertise for, to hold public hearing for ordinance 2206, authorizing the city of Roswell to amend ordinance 1909 for the purpose of increasing the funding package of the New Mexico Environment Department Clean Water State Revolving Fund Loan Number CWSRF 097, regular agenda.
Second that motion.
This is just to have a public meeting.
That's just advertise.
Carry.
Yeah, that's all we're doing.
Publicize. We've got time to work out the work, yeah.
Well, by then we'll have a sheet so we can go, oh, they missed it here. The problem is we're going to have a year delay in this thing before we actually get it show up on the project, and there'll be another increase.
I hope not.
Well, I hope not too, but I mean, that's just the way this thing works. Okay, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Any opposition? Motion passes 3-0.
While y'all are hearing the next portion, I will.
Slip, okay. Oh, this one. Oh, yeah.
Morning, Mr. Chair, committee members. What you have before you is task order G of the Armstrong Professional Services Agreement that the city has for airport engineering services. This task order is the process that the airport has to go through periodically to update its master plan. The last time we updated the master plan was in 2012. There's really not a set time frame on when that happens because the master plan, of course, is a living document. So as you walk through those things that are in the plan and accomplish them, or you change your goals, those things get reflected in the updates. There are also, of course, regulations that change periodically that require the master plan to be updated periodically as well. All of this is governed by, I could read them all, but you probably don't want to hear them, a ton of FAA regulations, and an FAA advisory circular guides the process and the components that are in the master plan. The cost of it would be, with the GRT, $721,052.38 to Armstrong. I know you guys will probably ask about that number, whether that sounds like a good number. The FAA requires a independent fee evaluation for every project that's over 100,000. So this has gone through that, and it's within 10% of that evaluation. So yes, it is a good number. With that, I'll stop and see what your questions are.
So I've got a question. City's presently contracted with Armstrong, correct?
Yes.
When's that contract?
It'll be next year.
Next year? Okay, so this is inside their present contract,
Yes, sir.
Yes, this project is listed in the PSA.
and we didn't go out for, no, any.
We do that typically every 4 years, and then we are able to extend the contract 1 year at a time.
And Mr. Chair, committee members, one of the things we want to do with this master plan this year is to expand it out a little bit farther because of all the interest that we've had in the last 2 or 3 years on the Air Center. We want to make sure that we look at additional variables in there. So there'll be a, there was a 5-year or a model that showed what it could look like as it builds out and everything. But I would like them to look a little bit deeper at our present structure as well and pull it all the way through. So I think that'll accept some additional stakeholder meetings with the EDC, the county, all of our stakeholders. And so we're going to make sure that there's additional meetings as we go.
And is this the proposal where I saw that they're recommending a couple of public meetings and then the task force be appointed and all that stuff?
That's to a certain extent. We'll have a kickoff meeting with Armstrong, talk about what our expectations are, what we would like to see, and they'll advise us and we'll make a decision. But I mean, if you look at it, it's a 45-page long document, and that's why I stopped instead of trying to read the whole thing. But there are 11 elements in it, and it covers all of those things. And probably the best thing to read to get a good introduction to it is that objective for the first 3 pages, or 2. Anyway, that gives a pretty good explanation of it. It takes into consideration the changes that Mr. Nebb's talking about that we've had. COVID has affected us drastically, both negatively and positively. For aircraft storage at the height of COVID, I'm sure all you guys saw those tails sitting out there. We had 515 airliners stored on our airport. It was a huge revenue boom for us and an introduction to the rest of the world. So that operation continues to be more than it was before COVID. We have approximately 300 airplanes on the airport now, but that number fluctuates a bit with aircraft getting sold and others going back into service. So we're on the map now because of COVID more than we were before. On the air service side, as all of you know, that got tough during 20. They took away everything but basically a turn to Dallas. And now we've got our Phoenix back. We've got 2 flights to Dallas back, 3rd flight's coming back in the summer. And probably won't see much change on that for a while because of the stress the airlines in general are under, mostly for crews. But what's happened is our demand for passenger service has come back close to what it was in 19. It's on a very good recovery trajectory. If we can get the seats, we'll fill them. So those are the things that are all covered in here as a starting point and things that we need to talk about and plan for the future. And typically the master plan goes out 1 to 5, 6 to 10, and 10 to 20. So we look at those projects going out that far. And then of course, as I said, it's a suggestion. It's a guideline, not a fixed black and white rule that you have to do these things, but it's a good guide to move you forward so that you don't go, what are we doing tomorrow? You know, we know.
Mr. Chairman.
Mm-hmm.
And adding to that with the flights getting back to a norm as well, and that trend is going to grow. We have got to focus, and I know we're going to see within this master plan the need of, what do you call it, concourse or gates or whatever, expansion. My wife missed a flight to Burbank, California. She was there in plenty of time, but because of the flight layouts and everything, just the ability to get everyone back into the area to get in, it's just very difficult. And if you fly, I fly through regularly using it. It's a challenge, and it's not that anyone's doing anything wrong. We just that's an area of concentration we're going to really need to be focusing on.
And that's one of our biggest challenges in growth. We still have 1 ticket counter open. So when the FAA looks at that, they go, well, you have room. We don't need more. And so we had that fight because we know that the future looks different.
Right.
And they react to actual things, not projected things. I mean, you can project all you want, but if it doesn't come true, then they don't want to spend money on it. So that's where we're working. Unfortunately, we've had to push the Denver flight that we've been trying to get with United for a long time. We've had to push that because of the airline stress. But it's possible that we might work something else out and fill that counter with a different airline, maybe a different route. But there's still some opportunities out there that we'll be working on going forward.
Mr. Chairman. Scott, have new counselors had the opportunity to go take a tour out there and see?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Please do.
I really encourage you to get a hold of them and take the tour. There's a lot of updates and some really great things that have happened that you're not going to see if you don't go behind the doors, going behind the ticket counter, see what we've done back there. And just some phenomenal things have taken place. And I think you'd be encouraged to see some of the things that have happened that you're never going to see if you don't.
And I can tell you that 10 years ago, you had people in this town who go, "You got an airport?" Nobody said that anymore.
Yeah.
They all know we have an airport. I think most of them know we have airline service, which also they didn't know. It's, we're growing, we're getting more notoriety. Any press is good press. Trump always said.
Yeah, we've come a long way since these airlines. Yeah.
So, and we need, before COVID, our air service was growing at about 5% per year, which actually, if you look at that across the board nationwide, that's phenomenal. We grew 2 years over 25%, but that was when we introduced Phoenix. And so that flight was getting filled, and it did. And then we continued to grow at 5% a year after that. We're not doing that now, but we will come back to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
So what's their on-time dispatch out of here?
It had been about 87%. I haven't checked it lately. It's pretty good. That needs to be better always, right? 100 is what we're looking for.
Well, yeah, but I'm hearing lots of squawks about the 11 o'clock flight. Never.
That's always the one that's a problem. I've had my own slumber party at DFW Airport, at least once or twice
I
myself.
think we all have.
Yeah.
I had one by 7 minutes. The departure. I had a connecting flight.
Yeah.
And get to the gate, and the gate attendant says, "I told them you were going to be late, but the manager said send it out." And I'm like, "Really?" So you got to spend the night, because he didn't, and they knew there was incoming passengers to make the transfer, but it was absolutely 7 minutes was all. So of course I sent my nasty gram to American Airlines, but it doesn't mean anything, but.
Made you feel better.
Yeah.
That's the other reason.
Yeah.
Another airline.
Oh, we need competition if we can get it.
Competition, that'll help American, and it'll help us have choices. But
Yeah. I strongly agree in competition, and that'll make other people perform at a better level or leave, one of the two, whatever they got to do. But so,
Yeah.
and Mr. Name, let me just ask this question. Why has this master plan not been updated? It's been 10 years since it was last updated. Why did it sit on the shelf?
How long's the master plan been in effect?
Well, we've always had it, but the last update was in 2012, and that's a pretty typical cycle when you don't have.
What does the FAA require?
They don't.
No requirement.
They require changes when changes are needed, basically. So if your business model is changing, demand for air service is changing, various things.
Okay. In the past, I've always operated off of a 5-year master plan for the air center, not a 10-year. So.
Yeah, this just appears that it's a 10-year plan for what you're doing.
And
I believe that, when you have to have a plan, there's no doubt about it, but you need to have annual review of that plan to see where you're off and where you're not, and how you make your adjustment to get back on that plan or amend the plan. And so is that the process that we're doing here now?
we look at the master plan often.
And if it is a 10-year plan, then I would recommend that it be renewed after 5 years anyway, because by that time, life's gotten away and the plan doesn't normally fit for that next period of time. So, but that'd be the best answer I have.
Okay.
I agree. The more often we can take a look at it and renew it, keep it fresh, that's the better off we are.
I agree with that.
The one caveat to that is that FAA funds it. So if they don't give us the grant, well, I suppose we could pay for it ourselves. But this one is funded 95% by FAA, and the other 5 we split with the state. So we've had it on our CIP for many years, and it actually has gotten pushed a couple of years because the FAA didn't want to grant it that year.
Okay, but you've got their approval already, and
we do. Well, we don't. It's funny. I'm not going to get too deep into how the FAA grants work, but they're kind of backwards. We'll probably get the grant in August, maybe September. They tend to say, yeah, we'll get them out in June, and then they're always behind. So we're going through the process, but it starts in September of the year before.
Okay.
So we have the verbal word that, yes, this is what we want to do, but we won't have a grant paper-wise until probably August.
We're in line for
it.
For the grant.
Yeah, they program these things five years out. So unless there's some crazy major change, they typically don't get moved.
Okay.
I noticed in here, they're going to talk about snow removal. We don't have any snow removal equipment at the air center, correct?
We do.
Yeah, we do.
We have one that's particularly purposed for snow, and it's not.
1954, but we're.
Yeah, he's right. It's all, I don't want to say it.
Well, if it never moved,
That's right.
keep that sucker polished up.
It looks wonderful.
It doesn't get that much use because we don't get deep enough snow to use it most of the time.
God usually takes care of it in about 45 minutes.
Right.
The things that are more effective for us are a grader or a Brooks broom. If we had a setup, which we ordered, it was in the financial side of it was approved in the budget adjustment. But they have a big dump truck with a plow on it. You know,
Right.
you run that thing 45 miles an hour with a rubber squeegee on the blade, we get that off pretty quickly, and the depth doesn't matter. But if you don't have 6 inches of snow on the ground with that snow blower, it's very difficult to get it up.
Oh, snow blower, you either have enough snow or you pile all your stuff up and then run it through
That's
that
what
pile.
we typically do when we have 3-4 inches. We'll pile it up in the windrows, and then we use the snow blower to get it off the runway.
Well, I was just curious, during a winter snowstorm several years ago, we had 3 days of no commercial activity because we didn't remove the snow off of 2103.
It was tough.
So that's the reason why I thought you didn't have any snow removal equipment. At least you didn't have it that particular time.
We had it and we were using it. There was just that much snow. We only got one. So, you know, when you got 6-foot snow drifts out there, it takes a while.
Okay. All right.
We're just not built for that sort of snow. So it hurts everybody when it happens. We beat Love if that makes any difference. We got to open it for later.
Did you hear that?
Hmm.
Make sure you heard that.
I heard it.
We beat Lubbock.
I wanna
Everything's
hear
not
that.
always better in Texas.
I just want to make sure that we got it because there's been some times I've questioned if we even had it. And I know at one point we had 2 plows and the blower. But I don't know what happened to all that stuff. A lot of water under that bridge.
Yep.
So, okay. Well, I can tell you the 11 o'clock flight last August had a spot switch problem. And I was with an A&P. We could have gone out there and fixed it in about 5 minutes. We ended up driving to El Paso to make our connection in Alaska.
It's just their rules and regulations they have to follow.
Yeah, I know. Licenses don't mean as much
Okay,
as they
you ready to
used
make a
to.
motion there, Jason?
When Mesa was here, my guy would go down there and kick it around and get it done. All right, what's your, stop it.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we send to full council to recommendation to approve task order G of the professional service agreement with Armstrong Consultants Incorporated to update the airport master plan and airport layout plan as laid out and presented.
I second that motion.
I have one more quick question, and I may have missed it going through this because this is a lengthy document. What's the expected completion date on this thing, assuming you get the money in August?
Before 2032.
I would say to get all the meetings done, all the paperwork done every year.
Okay,
I think that's
that's fair enough. All right, any other discussion?
No.
Okay, I've got a motion, a second on this wonderful update of our airport plan. Any objections? Hearing none, passes 3-0. Next item. This is also you guys. See you guys.
Counselors.
Shifting gears. You guys can't take the heat, do it all.
It's packing, sir, yes, sir. So item number 9 is for the award of the airport security program. We need to update our ASP. We are in, we want to use Faith Group. They are an entity, that's all they do is airport security plans, so-called consultings. They've done large and small airports. One of the unique issues with ours is we got to address the passenger service. We also have to address the MRO services. So this entity would be the best to be able to do that. Is there no slide?
No, we didn't, I didn't get a PowerPoint from you.
Okay.
Is
I'll
part
stand for questions.
this, go ahead, gentlemen. I told you I killed my.
My question is that I see that there's a phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3.
This-
And why are we only looking at approving phase 1? Do we know we're going to go do phase 2 and we're going to do phase 3?
We're not sure yet, but phase 2 and phase 3 will come next budget year because it's going to take us a while to get this worked out. So we want to do it in phases at a time. So we'll do phase 1 this coming budget year, then phase 2 and phase 3 will be later on.
Yeah. And so we've gone through the sole source procurement process. We're okay with that and there are no issues with that.
Because if Parker's not alerted to me if there's any issues.
Well, my question is, so we're going to,
Still in the middle of it.
yeah, we're going through phase 1. We're going to get committed to these people and then we're going to go sole source again in phase 2 and phase 3. Is that what we're going to do? I mean, because we're committed, even though we're not approving it and you're not asking for approval of 2 and 3, we're committed to that. Because you're not going to go get someone else to do your phase 2 and someone else to do your phase 3. So even though it's a budget for next year, why aren't we just approving the whole thing and move on?
Do that if you don't approve it.
Concerned about that,
Do we have a price for the?
I'll give it a price, but I'm not afraid we didn't include it in there.
We can amend that. I think the big challenge is that we have some obligations that we have to get done with TSA and such. And so that's why we had to get underway with the phase 1. What we'll do is we'll repackage this one for phase 1, 2, and 3, even though it crosses budget cycles and bring it forward. in that
Because you
way.
can move over budget cycle. That's not a
I agree with you, Counselor. I think that staying with the same horse through all of it
Right.
could be more beneficial for us as well.
And just, this is a whack, but if I remember right, the whole price was around 200,000 to seat.
If that's what it looks like, yes. When you add 2s and 3s together, but let's not go through this process again if we don't have to. Let's just get it all done and get our business taken care of. So,
Mr. Chair and councilors, committee members, the only thing I would just verify with legal and the procurement office, because when we advertise this particular contract as a sole source, we have to go to the state's website and upload it there for the scope of work and the price. And if we amend it, we may have to re-advertise a sole source process again. So I just want to show that note of caution.
We'll present whatever we can get presented to you, but
Okay.
we'll try to do it as a full package if all possible. So,
and it may go next meeting.
Yeah.
Possible.
yeah.
So is this part of the discussions that you're presently having with TSA?
It is.
Are we in the time frame with them? If we have to push this out for,
I guess the ASAP is the response that we get from them. We've shared some potential dates to get the product done.
right?
And of course, they don't like our timeline.
Of course not.
I'm assuming we're all going to be good. I think the big thing that we want to do is show forward of getting this stuff corrected.
Okay. Yeah, that's when,
Yeah.
if this is in violation of you getting what you need to get done with TSA, then say it. And we'll,
So this one needs to be pushed on.
We'll walk through it. If we could just put this on there and with the potential that we may bring you an alternative at the council meeting, that way we can kind of keep moving. And then if we adjust, we'll just keep you aware of price when we get to Thursday. Because we're going to walk out of here and we're going to see if we can get all this done, bring it forward as a packet for phase 1, 2, and 3.
okay.
If at a minimum, phase 1, and we'll bring you back phase 2 and 3 at the next finance committee meeting.
Okay. I'm good with that.
You?
Yeah, I'm fine with that now.
Okay,
I just don't like to chop things up. We can get it
No,
all at once. You know,
fly on the same ground.
get it done today, not tomorrow.
Okay. What's your desire, gentlemen? Any other questions on this one?
Do you have any objection to that, Jason?
No, I was just trying to, yeah. He's been there before. So.
Yeah, 2 or 3 times.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we send to full council recommendation to approve the contracting, the research and generation of a new airport security program approved by the Transportation Security Agency by the Faith Group LLC as the sole source, as presented.
Does that need to be amended, Joe, for what you were talking about?
Yeah, we'll be fine.
Okay, I'm second that.
That includes potential phase 2 and 3.
Do you need to put that in there now or?
Well, because of how my question is, 2 and 3 was not advertised, so I would stick with this, and the motion could be amended at full council. Is what I'd rather do.
We'll bring it at that time.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
No further discussion for me.
Second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Any opposition? Passes 3-0. Well, getting kind of close to the end of
Public
this.
participation.
Public participation.
Oh, we've got some people online. You got to tell me about that stuff. It's kind of a new ambiance.
COVID world.
We have, Mr. Chair, we do have some members on the public participating via GoTo. I know in the past, Councilor Perry would just announce if anybody that's online who wishes to address the committee.
And you may have some present as well. I'm just
No,
assuming maybe.
we're ready for public comments. Anybody got anything they want to bring up?
Go ahead, Larry, you go first.
No, he's polling them.
I don't see anybody chiming in.
No.
Do they do, is it all voice or can they send us an email or?
It's all voice.
It's all voice.
They can send a text as well in there, but I don't see the little text box doesn't have anything in it, so.
There is no chat.
Okay, assuming we have nobody online, I note that Councilor Halverson's on. And
Mr. Nate.
Pastor Christina Arnold was here a little earlier. So you need to reflect that as being here part of the time.
Okay.
Okay, so which one of you guys is gonna, why don't you just arm wrestle on that end of the table? No? Okay, Larry. Mr. Conley.
Larry Conley, 2815 in Canto. I'm speaking Rita, a joint deal for Rita and I. I overheard the other day, Rita was talking to Maya about, could we, one of the reasons I have to file it for reports, what do you call it?
I call it in profiles.
Oh, okay. If we could only get the PowerPoints that are presented here, copy of that, PowerPoint, you can put them in a package 3 or 4 days later. That would, you'd be okay with it?
I would be okay with that, and then I don't have to write seven info files a day.
I'm not sure I understood.
She wants copies of the PowerPoint.
He wants a copy of the
Okay.
PowerPoint.
PowerPoint's
It's part of the
attached.
agenda.
Okay.
I don't have any strenuous objection.
No, Mr. Chair, the question is, of course, is that can we publish the PowerPoints after the committee meetings? If we would publish them, then it would make the system work a little better. I'm not sure why we've never published them afterwards. We do make them available through it and everything, but I would say that after they've been presented to the committees, there's nothing wrong with them putting together that file, and we'll make those adjustments in the clerk's office.
And Mr. Chair and committee members, we have, aside from Rita, there hasn't been a lot of requests, but I can certainly have copies of the PowerPoint here, just along with the agenda. If anybody wishes to get a copy, they can do that as well, because it's a public document, as Mr. Nip mentioned.
I always thought it would be good to have them published. And so just because when it's done, it provides the rest of the story.
Yes.
Provides the rest of the story as to what we talked about. So we'll work with the clerk's office to get that.
I agree with you, Mr. Neill. It just creates more transparency in the production of what's happening here. And we're going to go to as transparent as we can get.
I thought we already covered your issue, Miss
No,
Rita.
I have a different issue.
Oh, okay. Well, let's hear it.
I'm Rita Kane Dorhofer, very narrow, unstriped Chicago Cubs mailbox on Mark Road.
Can I ask you, did the county just never take care of that road for you? Is that?
Oh, we like to hear something like that. For 8 years I've heard that. I didn't want to change it. She had it down so perfectly.
I have been in Roswell for 30 years, and I have always thought that our airport is a commodity that we really need to get out there because that brings things in. I was on the board with Judy Stubbs trying to get an international airport. That said, I don't know if you've seen the prices of gas recently. If you've seen the prices of egg from yesterday to today, you will lose your hair. I am telling you, it is unreal. So I am not going to travel to Chicago. I am going to travel to New Mexico. This is a handy dandy little book here, and it's free. Optimum word, it is free. And the minute I got it, I looked for Southeast because I live in the Southeast, and they have great pictures. Everything is in here from Alamogordo to White Oaks. And when I went to look for Roswell, I'm going, oh boy, I better get my glasses. I don't see anything from Roswell. There was nothing in here from the Southeast. The only thing that was in here from Roswell was here. And I don't know what this is. I know it's an alien face. I got that, but I don't know what all these little figures mean here. We need to get out because with gas prices, people are going to stay here in the state. This is a great magazine, great magazine. It's free. We should utilize this for Roswell. Thank you.
No, the other. That's it. I'm sorry. Can I just make a comment real quick at the rest of it there? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Did you want the
Keep going. One more. So just to say that, just one thing to add to that, we do get quite a bit of advertising out. Just sometimes it's in areas we don't necessarily get to see. The Texas Monthly that went out had some really phenomenal things that came forth to make Roswell shine. And I don't always necessarily know why the state tourism, makes choices on, maybe it's on a quarterly basis or different things, but I do know that we do have some things that are getting out to some of these areas that, especially areas that we know we're getting tourists to come in from,
Mr. Chairman, can I say one other ask?
Sure, Mr.
Is
Collins.
this going to be the new time for the meeting?
I'm sorry.
Is this going to be the new time for the meeting?
No,
Well, we're going to discuss that here in a minute.
we need to discuss that because Counselor Foster is on this committee and he is not free to leave his place of employment at 9 o'clock in the morning. So we will look at adjusting we'll have discussion as the chair says and decide when we're going to do this.
Okay.
At what time.
Thank you.
This was just moved around, Larry, because it was supposed to be last week. We were all, there wasn't a quorum available last week.
we were all sad.
Yeah.
Well, you and I could have met.
Huh?
You and I could have met. We stayed in town.
I actually went anyway.
Oh, you did?
I got it all figured out.
Well, good for you. Got a few more gray hairs while you're doing all that.
Yes, I
heavy
did.
stuff. Okay. All right. So anything else from the public? Okay. Moving on. Couple things we want. Housekeeping, if you will. One is the next meeting, when we're going to have it, and of course the time of the day. And another thing that I want to bring up is, I think for my edification, we need to do a complete meeting on revenue estimates and cover all the different categories: gross receipts, property tax, all the grants, all of the enterprise funds. We need to have a better working knowledge, and the only way to do that is sit down and think about it. So And I think we need to have that sooner than later. We start talking about the budget. I think we need to have a better than educated guess on the revenue stream, how we get the money there. I mean, we just did $6 million worth of transfers, and I was trying to figure it out going through the documents. I think Councilor Hildebrand and my eyes both got kind of glazed over when we were looking at that. And because remember, that's just 6 months. That's just that last half of the fiscal year. So, and we're going to have to produce a document that has all that covered.
Correct.
And so we need to have a better understanding. And also, I've been afforded the opportunity to look at the budget line item numbers and stuff. I'm used to working with that. I don't know if you've seen it or not. I know you've used it a lot over the years, but we need to go through those a little bit just to make sure that what I see is my understanding is correct with everybody else's understanding. So we need to do that. We need to get that on PDQ. We talked about a meeting 1st of May, first week in May. Like to get it squeezed in before then, which is going to be hard to do, but I understand that. Okay, so that's my comment. Any objection to?
Just, Mr. Chairman, just so you know, I had predetermined my schedule according to what our regular meetings usually are. I am out of town the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of May. But I had planned to leave very, very early in the morning on that next Thursday to be able to make it here for whatever time we have for the committee meeting, if we're staying for first Thursdays of the month, which has been traditionally where finance is sat.
And just a little bit more background, Mr. Chair. That last Thursday, that first Thursday of each month is the latest we would like you to have your committee meeting, because then we put the agendas out on that Friday afterwards. So if you move backwards from there, it works for staff. Your time is not a problem whatever time you pick. But if you can make sure that that happens before that first Thursday at the latest, and then come backwards from there.
We've in the past, historically, finance has met on that first Thursday of the month, historically, just to make sure that any last minute tie in things are taken care of, to jump it onto the council meeting without having to make major changes throughout.
And then Councilor Foster, of course, as a teacher, he's good from 4 o'clock into that later. Yeah. Otherwise, he has to schedule a substitute or something, and I'm not sure how the school feels about that.
I think, yeah.
Well, just speaking out loud, I like this first Monday or a Monday meeting. That moves it way back. And I'll start there and see how close we get back to Thursday. You got to include.
I just keep the first Thursday of the month, 4 o'clock, and I'm good with that. You know.
That works best for me, and I don't know for staff, but I always try to steer away from Mondays, because coming in off of a holiday, there's a lot of things that can happen in a city over a weekend that staff have to deal with on a Monday morning. And
very few holidays fall on Thursday.
Correct. That's another good reason.
All right.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what we're going to do. Could I raise Wednesday?
Wednesday is a
busy time for you.
I would need to be able to be in Artesia by 6 o'clock on Wednesday evening.
Yeah, sure. I am okay with Thursday.
Okay. Thursday, which at 4 o'clock. So I would put
that work for Councilor Foster in the past.
My understanding is that was
he can get here by 4 o'clock. Yes.
Okay.
So our next regular scheduled meeting would fall on May 5th. Is that what I'm looking at here?
Yes, sir. May 5th. And I would ask, Mr. Chair, I think that because we're going to change the time from 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock, that we at least take probably formal action from the committee.
I would say a
We'll just lean on
consensus.
the chair.
Yeah, the chair has the
We'll
ability.
lean on the chair and the chair will pick the time.
Thank you. You keep adding to my cart.
Yeah, so don't blame me.
The chair will set that on me to
Yeah,
F4.
and Mr. Chair and committee members, according to our rules of procedure, that is correct. The chair has the final authority on setting the date and time. So,
You're not helping.
well, my action, so yes.
I'm big on committees making decisions, not individuals.
You've heard our input, so now you can make the decision. I'm just saying, if you don't do them on Thursdays, you may not have a quorum.
So
We'll let you make the decision as long as it's the first Thursday at 4 o'clock. If you wing from that, well, we may have some problems.
Yeah.
With your decision.
I might just pull my back a little bit and just try you on.
We would not be surprised.
Because we're going to have to do that finance revenue stream.
Yeah, I'm waiting for
Tighten
that,
that up too.
waiting for that calendar to come back to us. And so.
Okay.
Bigger print,
Sir?
bigger print.
Oh, yeah. Can we get these things?
Yeah.
I cannot hardly read these even with my reading glasses.
So when I first came, Mr. Chairman, to the council, everything was done on legal. Remember, everything was done on legal paper. It was the big
Oh, yeah.
legal paper and, yeah.
If there's just a way that you can enlarge the print on some of your schedules and things, it would be greatly appreciated because I've got to go get a magnifying glass on top of my readers.
Oh, I got the same problem.
Yeah.
So Mr.
Fortunately, you're dealing with elderly.
Well, font is perfect.
Jason says he can't see anyway. with
The
his glasses.
landscape stuff, that's okay.
I wish I could make a pun on that one, but I have to include myself.
So you're stuck, huh?
I'm stuck.
All right, there
Are
you
we
go.
adjourned, sir?
Yes, I believe we're adjourned. Any other thing? Okay, sir.
And no, I'm just going to say 10:40, the meeting is.
Oh, okay. You're taking the minutes. All right. Thank
Thank
you
you.
all. See
Thank
you all
you.
next time.